Peter and Lida and Joppa. Now in Joppa there was a disciple whose name was Tabitha, which in Greek is Dorcas. She was devoted to good works and acts of charity. At that time she became ill and died. When they had washed her, they laid her in a room upstairs. Since Lydda was near Joppa, the disciples, who heard that Peter was there, sent 2 men to him with the request, "Please come to us without delay." So Peter got up and went with them. And when he arrived, they took him to the room upstairs. All the widows stood beside him, weeping and showing tunics and other clothing that Dorcas had made while she was with them. Peter put all of them outside, and then he knelt down and prayed. He turned to the body and said, "Tabitha, get up." Then she opened her eyes, and seeing Peter, she sat up. He gave her his hand and helped her up. Then calling the saints and widows, he showed her to be alive. This became known throughout Joppa, and many believed in the Lord. Meanwhile, he stayed in Joppa for some time with a certain Simon, a tanner. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Well, good morning everyone, and happy Mother's Day to those that it applies to. That wasn't me. No, that is me. No. Right. Yeah, happy Mother's Day. Michelle would love to be here, and I'd love to have her here with us, but unfortunately she's not in the best spot. Oh, perhaps she is in the best spot. She's under surgery right now as they're repairing that arm. Yeah. As many of you know, nearly 2 months ago we got a new dog, a 2-year-old dog that we got from the pound, and she was very timid, and it became very apparent to us very quickly that Faith, that's her name, had probably been abused and probably been abused by a man. And so we also discovered this week that you're allowed to take your dog into the hospital to visit members of the family. Now, I didn't know this, but apparently yesterday, apart from our dog being there was another dog there as well, a Maltese Terrier. They called it the White Claw Model. I didn't see it. I don't know why they called it that, but I can imagine. So Michelle said, "Well, you can bring Faith in to see me." So I thought, okay, I'll do that. So yesterday we set about and I gave her a bath. It was the first time I'd had the opportunity to bath her since we got her. I wish someone had had a video camera there. I think it would have made quite a hit on YouTube. I discovered she did not like baths. And I'm not sure who finished up the weather. But we got her bathed, got her all fresh, got her into the hospital. As soon as she gets in there, she's up on the bed with Michelle. And word gets around that she's there. And for the next 2 hours, there's this constant stream of nurses coming in, going, "Oh, she's beautiful. Oh, she's gorgeous. Oh, look at those wrinkles." And so it goes. She's a box across something or other, and she's got her share of wrinkles. And they're walking up and they're patting her, and she's just adoring this, taking it all in. On the way out, as we're walking down the hallway, and Michelle's walking with me, there's a man and his 2 teenage daughters. And the teenage daughters go, "Oh, she's gorgeous, she's beautiful," and they pat her and cuddle her and she laps it all up. And the guy goes, "Oh, here, girl," and she goes, she's scared of the man. That takes her about 45 minutes, I've worked out, for her to start to warm up to the point where a man can pat her. And this has got me worried, because in this day and age, we're confusing all these things. Have you noticed that? We've got men that call themselves women and women that call themselves men, and there's all sorts of letters we've got that identify all this sort of stuff, and I haven't got a clue what's going on. But I'm worried that what if that had been someone who was a man who was pretending to be a woman? How would I explain to that person why my dog would not allow them to pat them, but would let the other women pat them? And if I tell the truth, am I going to be in trouble for saying, well, that's because you're really a bloke even though you're presenting to be a woman? You know, that's not going to get me very far, is it? I could finish up in a lot of trouble. We know what happened to Israel Folau when he spoke the truth. So where do we go with that? And who would finish up in jail? Would it be me or my dog? For discriminating. Yeah. We live in a world where we're beginning to lose sight of the way God thinks made. And I wonder what would happen if I put out a tweet and said, tweeted a verse of scripture just like Israel did, and instead of putting out what he did, which was saying that sinners need to be forgiven and they need a saviour. If I'd have put out something like Genesis 1:27, which says, so God created man in his image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. Would that be seen as hate speech? And would we get into trouble? I think we're heading down that road. And it worries me. You know, but it's not just with my dog that we have that problem. With the bike ministry, do you realise that men and women are physically different? I know, that's a strange thought. And I'm not just talking about the obvious ways. We have sort of figured that out, haven't we? But in very subtle ways, we have a number of physiological differences. For instance, a woman is longer proportionally in the torso, and she has a broader, I've got to be careful how I'm saying this, a broader pelvic bone. You know those little bumpy bits in your bottom? No, I'm not saying that. You can say that, Peter. They're a little bit wider apart. And so when they build bicycles, gender is very important, because they need to know how wide the flat bit of the seat is, because if you try to put a woman on a man's saddle, that is not going to be very comfortable. But if you put a man on a woman's saddle, it's too wide, and that chafes. And also, because the woman's body is longer, because she gets to carry a baby, and a man doesn't, it affects how she bends over and reaches as to how a man does that. And so different parts of the bike are made at different lengths to accommodate that. You know, you always thought that a woman's bike was a pretty colour with pretty stickers on it and a bar leaning down, but there's a lot more to it than just that, I can tell you. And it's not just in bicycles, it's in all walks of life. And we're beginning to see in sports that men are dressing up as women and calling themselves women, and actually the fastest women's racer today in America, the champion women's racer these days is a man who calls himself a woman. And we're beginning to see this in sports, where in the various sports there will be a decline in the ability of women to win the championships, because there are men pretending to be women. We had an instance of that in the weightlifting as a Commonwealth Games, and it's going to become more problematic. It's also becoming problematic. There's protests starting in America, because now, under American law, if I woke up and said, I think I'm a woman today, and I'm walking through the shopping centre and I want to go to the toilet because I think I'm a woman today, even though I'm clearly a man, I'm allowed to go to the women's toilets. And women aren't real happy about that. Don't understand why. Actually, I do understand why. And it is causing serious problems. You see, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created him, male and female. He made them. You see, God made us to be who we are. He had a plan and a purpose in that. It became a bit more apparent to me yesterday, not just with taking the dog to visit my wife, but also with our bacon Bibles and bicycles. Because we got into the men's shed, which was not a very feminine environment. It's a workshop. And we're sitting on old vinyl chairs gathered around. Between two bits of bread, we had an abundance of cholesterol in the form of bacon and eggs. And we're shoveling those in, very unsophisticated. And I sat back for a moment and just looked. And here's a bunch of guys, a bunch of blokes, in their environment. And they were relaxed, they were kicked back, and they were enjoying themselves. And then I thought about our quilting group that happens, and it's going to happen next Saturday. Happens once a month on the third Saturday afternoon. And all the chairs are all packed up at the front here. And the ladies have got their tables and their sewing machines all set up. And they're fussing about. And they get these unfinished quilts and they've got them hung over the chairs and sort of making it, you know, a woman's sort of place. And they're fussing at it. And they're being women. And each month, I notice there's an extra 1 or 2 or 3 women. And it is just working so good because the ladies are being ladies just as the guys were being guys. Because that's the way God made us. And it works. And as I was coming to think about Mother's Day, I thought, what do we have about mothers in the New Testament? And there were 4 women that came to my mind. And I want to talk about them today. The first, we don't even know what her name is. She's the mother-in-law of Peter, the apostle. Did you get that? Peter the apostle, who was obviously celibate and never married, had a mother-in-law. That's a bit strange, isn't it? He was obviously married. Most likely had children. And he had a mother-in-law. And you can read about that in Mark chapter 1. You can read about it in Luke chapter 4. And there's just 2 verses in either of those 2 Gospels. But both those Gospel writers thought this incident, but also this woman, was worth recording. And what we know is that Peter's mother-in-law, his wife's mother, was unwell to the point where Peter was concerned. That's got to be pretty crook if your son-in-law's worried about you, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. So she's pretty crook. And Peter says to Jesus, look, my mother-in-law, my wife's mother, is not well. And so he goes and he prays with her. And she gets up. And the interesting bit is that she doesn't run around and go, oh wow, Jesus healed me, look at this, praise the Lord, Jesus healed me. And she doesn't run around all the neighbours and that. She says, oh wow, the Lord's here. Oh, I've got a house full. I'm going to get busy. And she ministers to them through serving them, which I imagine was a bit of cooking, a bit of fussing about and doing that. The next one we come across is Tabitha. You see, Hebrew and Aramaic, Tabitha means gazelle. Obviously, her parents thought she would grow up to be a very gracious young lady and a very graceful lady. The Greeks call her Dorcas, but I'm not allowed to do that. I've got strict instruction. But she was well respected and well known in the town of Joppa, and we had that in our reading. We don't know if she was a mother or not, but I really suspect she was. Because she cared. She cared about people. And we do know that she was a disciple. That's interesting. The women weren't tag-alongs. In Christianity, women are never tag-alongs. I want you to understand that. Other religions might see women as being the field where the men put their seed and, they stay in the back room and just do whatever. But in Christianity, women are beside us. And they are disciples of Jesus Christ every much as it is for us men. And I reckon we should say hallelujah for them. They are our partners in life. And we treasure and we want to honour that. But here is Tabitha, and she dies. And the people of Joppa are really concerned. And it's particularly the widows, because being a widow is not a good career move if you're a woman, because it means you've no longer got a man providing for you. And that's where poverty will really come. And because Tabitha, I've got to get it right, because Tabitha loved the Lord. She also had compassion in her heart. And she cared for those that she saw around her. And that's why when Peter came, all these widows were there showing the tunics, the clothes that she had made for them. The next two ladies are Eunice and Lois, mother and grandmother of Timothy. I've got to look at my notes to remember who was the mother and who was the grandmother. Lois is the grandmother. Eunice is the daughter. Paul, the apostle, knew these two women well. And when talking to Timothy, he reminded Timothy that the reason that he believed, the reason that he was capable of being a minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ, was partly because the Spirit of God had anointed him to do that. But before that, there had been the preparation of his soul and his heart and his mind by two godly women who had influenced his life and had nurtured him and grown him. They passed on their faith to their son and their grandson. And I think that is an incredible thing. You know, in our social revolution, we are very much into identity politics, and it's all about me, and it's about people doing bigger and greater things. And I think we have forgotten the value of character. And I think we have forgotten the value of relationship. And that's why I believe that it's important for us to take days like today and celebrate the fact that there are mothers in our midst. What will endure into eternity is not the big deals that we make and the flash homes that we might build. What we will take into eternity will be the people whose lives we have sown the love and the nurture and the goodness of Jesus Christ into. Amen. I heard it once said that there will only be one thing in heaven made of human hands, and that will be the nail prints in the hands of Jesus and the wound in his soul. It will be the scars of Jesus as the only thing we will have contributed to the coming heaven, will be the scars of Jesus. And so, if we cannot build houses that we can take to heaven, if we cannot achieve sporting greatness that will be remembered in heaven, if we will not be able to do business deals that will be celebrated in heaven, what can we do? We can build the love of Jesus Christ into one another. Because if the love of Jesus Christ is built into a soul, that soul has the potential of going on for eternity. And if we share our faith with someone, as Eunice and Lois shared with their son, grandson, Timothy, if we share our faith with someone, as Tabitha did through her ministry of clothing, if we share our faith with someone, as Peter's mother-in-law did, by humbly serving, they are things that will be remembered in heaven, because there will be people there because of it. When God created this world, He made it perfect. And He made us. He made us male and female. He created us different. And He said that was good. In fact, He said it was very good. I believe that it is appropriate to recognize and celebrate who we are. You know, we may not be able to do this for much longer. Already Father's Day is under attack. They're not game enough to attack your Mother's Day. But our Father's Day is under attack. They want to change it to Parents' Day. You know, because, oh, look, Tommy, he's got two daddies, or he's got two mummies. Who, you know, seriously? In the beginning, God created us, male and female. And we all celebrate. Today is a chance to celebrate half our population. Because half our population, well, almost all that half, are either mothers or mothers in the future. I know not every woman becomes a child, bears a child, but most women have that nurturing spirit